Welcome to SKNIS Perspectives, an interactive program of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service, aired weekly on this radio station.
Today,
it gives me great pleasure to stand here to witness what we at the ministry would call another success for the Public Works Department.
another success story indeed, as teachers and students delight over the construction of a new block of classrooms and office space at the Basseterre High School. Melvin Mitchum of Public Works and BHS Principal Carlene Henry-Morton will share their thoughts. Plus,
once school starts in September, we think that we will be in a very good position for the full utilization of all three labs on the Western campus.
the Minister of Education sits down to discuss government's strategy to upgrade and maintain school facilities across the island. And we'll also tell you about a recent honouring ceremony held at Government House. I'm Ian Richards. This is Perspectives. Thank you for joining us. Last Tuesday, June 4, officials from the Ministry of Education, Department of Works and other stakeholders joined the staff and students of the Basseterre High School for the opening of a new wing that contains 6 classrooms and 2 new offices. Or Carissa Franks attended the opening and chatted with school principal Carlene Henry-Morton. But first, Melvin Mitchum of the Public Works Department provides some of the technical details of the new structure.
The building was designed by Brian Surge of Public Works, and he also did the bill of quantities. And upon doing the bill of quantities, we sent it out for tender. And Thomas Richard was selected, and so therefore he started. He promised he can give us the building in 3 months. That's from February 21st. So from February 21st to May 21st, it was done, and we are glad that it was accomplished at that time.
Okay, tell me about the features of the building.
The building is a wooden structure. It's basically T108. The floor is out of BC ply. The posts on the sides are 6 by 6, as you can see. The windows, at one time we designed them to be fixed windows, and then they said they wanted to be open windows. So then changed to have these windows are all open windows. The back windows, over the years, students has damaged the Miami windows. So we have decided to do open windows. The headmistress, Carlene, has decided to do open windows so they can open them and be much flexible.
What are your thoughts on the new wing?
I am very happy with how they have turned out. I'm not completely surprised because, as you would imagine, we come by from time to time and we have been dialoguing with the builders and so on. And as I said in my speech, where it was feasible, they made certain changes to accommodate some of the suggestions that we made. I'm very happy. They are spacious, quite airy, and I think quite comfortable. And I think we're going to enjoy using our classrooms. We're very happy for them.
And how will it add to your work?
It makes life very, very much easier. We have been compromised for space, as I'm sure most persons know. All of us, all 800 and something children at some point, all of us were over on the 80-something teachers, we were over on the eastern campus. And it became quite cramped. We had to teach in breezeways, on the corridors, on the trees and so on. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say thanks to my staff. I think that they have been very creative. They have improvised a lot. The teachers, the students, the parents, all have been very patient. And now that we have these rooms, we are going to be able to use them. They are coming in at a very, very important time. Thursday of this week, we begin to sit our internal exams. And so these classrooms will be used for our students to sit their exams in a very comfortable and spacious area. We began using them earlier this week and late last week for the orals, communication studies. And so teachers and students were using them as early as last week.
The Minister of Education, Honourable Nigel Carty, gave the feature remarks at the opening of the new wing. I was able to sit down with Minister Carty the following day to get his thoughts on the new building and explore how the depth of the maintenance problems at the Basseterre High School have changed the school of thought in government in relation to maintenance.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Richards. I am fortunate to have been around the construction from its inception because, as you know, the situation which arose at Basseterre High School was concerning to all of us in the ministry and the government and the entire country as a whole, and it was therefore incumbent upon us those of us in the ministry who had responsibility for the oversight of the project, one level or other, to give our support and to be on site from time to time to ensure that things were going well. And I was impressed with a number of things. One, the rate at which the work was taking place. Mr. Richards, who is the contractor, a gentleman from Newton Ground, assured us that he understood the circumstances and that he would do his very best to expedite the work. So I was impressed with the pace at which things were going. And the building turned out to be a very fabulous building. 6 classrooms in the first block, nice colors, soft blue on the interior, nice light colors on the outside. The office block, 2 offices, 1 sitting, waiting, meeting room. I am very, very impressed. And I want to thank Public Works for the design effort which went into the building and for the overall management of the project.
Now, during your address at the opening or the handover of the new building, you mentioned that several changes were made to the initial plans for the building. I think one of them was to make it a more permanent facility.
Yes, that is true. When we had our discussion in early January before the start of the school term, we were contemplating having a temporary classroom block set up. But as we went into the design phase, we recognized that you would be doing more harm than good, perhaps, if you were to construct a building that wasn't so firmly constructed as to withstand the things that classrooms normally ought to withstand. Children playing, 6 classrooms with 30 students each. We thought that it was important to ensure that it was properly designed. And with that, it took on the life of a permanent structure, and we are very, very happy for that. So the Basseterre High School is going to have all of their buildings renovated and upgraded. But in addition to that, they'll have these 6 classrooms in addition to office spaces and meeting rooms. So they'll be in a much better position.
And initially, of course, you touched on it earlier, but the timeline had to be adjusted to being able to construct the more physical, permanent building that it is that the ministry had in mind.
Yes, that is true. We were really hoping that we could have done the construction in a very short space of time. As a matter of fact, the school and the ministry were of the view that we could have done a temporary structure in 3 weeks' time. But we were warned very severely by Public Works that it couldn't be done. It wouldn't be a structure that was secure. And so even the design phase of the project took in excess of 3 weeks. And then we assigned a 3-month time frame to the construction project. And we are very satisfied with the input that has gone into it. And the school, led by the principal, was able to make a number of inputs during the construction phase, which led to the enhancement of the entire project.
And so basically, at the end of the day, it was done the right way to ensure that it can serve the needs of what it was designed for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we had safety first, and we wanted to make sure that the building was designed to last a long time so that the resources which we have put into the construction of the building would not go for naught.
You mentioned that several tours were done during the construction phase. The Deputy Prime Minister, Honourable Dr. Earl Henry-Morton, was one who paid keen interest in that. And also you mentioned the PTA as well too in your address. Talk to us about a bit of the inputs from both of those persons.
Dr. Martin, the Deputy Prime Minister, demonstrated more than just a keen interest in the project. He was leading because he understood that the children and teachers at the Basseterre High School deserve to be in a situation like any other. And so because of the disruption which was caused by the maintenance issues on the Western Bloc, he paid very keen attention and actually led through all of this ordeal, I must say. Dr. Martin would call and ask whether everything was going according to our satisfaction. He would call meetings at which both myself and himself and members of our respective ministries were present, and we would go through painstakingly the details that ought to be covered to ensure that there was not only secure progress of the project, but swift progress of the project as well. The Parent Teachers Association, as you would expect, has been very active in all of this. I recall that the first meeting we had over this matter with the PTA was one in which the demonstration of frustration on both the part of the parents and teachers as well as on the part of the ministry over what had happened at the Basseterre High School. The PTA again called a meeting which we had at the Washington Archibald High School. They have been very kind and supportive, and as you would expect from any PTA group, they have had a very deep interest in ensuring that the situation would return to normal so that their children would be safe and their friends, their teachers would be okay as well. So we want to say how pleased we are that the Ministry of Education has a variety of partners in our schools. We have PTAs and we have other kinds of groups who work with us on a day-to-day basis.
Minister, talk to us a bit about the government's investment in that particular project now.
The government has invested in excess of $800,000 for the construction of the 6 classroom block and the office complex. As I said earlier, a number of additions were done to the project as it went by. They were very useful additions, recommendations made by the staff and principal of the Basseterre High School. So we have gone in excess of $900,000 on that project. In relation to other projects which are ongoing as well, the renovation of the labs, we have spent on those separate aspects of the project nearly the same amount of money. So that we have spent nearly $900,000 on the renovation of the physics lab, the chemistry lab, the biology lab, the bathrooms and classrooms on the Western campus.
And how is that project coming?
The labs on the Western campus are just about finished. The biology lab still has some work to do, cabinets and so on to be done, but the others, chemistry and physics, are in a more ready state so that once school starts in September, we think that we'll be in a very good position for the full utilization of all 3 labs on the Western campus. With respect to the classrooms, work is going on. Painting has been done for the most part. Doors have been replaced. We are working on windows where they exist. And we are also looking at the renovation of the auditorium. We want the auditorium of the Basseterre High School to be a place where members of the wider community can feel proud to go, where concerts can be had by church groups, by other government ministries, other schools, of course, perhaps at a small fee, which would go towards the continual upkeep of the auditorium. But this provides an opportunity for us to do some overall enhancement and improvement to the Basseterre High School, not just to restore what was broken, but to improve upon what we have at the Basseterre High School.
And it really fits into the ministry's priority. I recall during the budget, you were careful to note that government is looking more broadly at improving education and, of course, education facilities. No longer will there be such as traditional maintenance placed in a window, but it is going to be a bit more comprehensive look into these facilities.
Right. The Ministry of Education is working very closely with the Public Works Department, again led by Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin called me on this matter about 2 weeks ago for us to move forward in setting up a permanent maintenance team that will look specifically at schools or preschools and daycare centers, primary schools, secondary schools. Because we believe that over the years there has been a significant amount of neglect with respect to the maintenance of our buildings. And we believe that it's going to be cheaper in the long run to have ongoing proper maintenance rather than to wait until we get to very serious situations such as we had at the Basseterre High School. So rather than having to spend $2 million as we are now spending on Basseterre High School, we could have spent that amount incrementally over time to ensure that the school was kept in a very good state of repair.
Any parting shots that you'd like to leave us with?
I want to say to the general public that the ministry is very committed to providing an overall enhanced quality of education for the boys and girls in the country. We believe that education is important. It lays the foundation for the continued development of our country, and we believe that the better the exposure and the experience in education, we believe that the better off we will be in the long run. We care deeply about the teachers as well, because those of us who work understand that employees have rights and we want to be able to work in an environment that is safe and secure. And we have going forward to treat with all of the issues in a holistic way. As I said in my remarks at the opening ceremony yesterday, at the beginning of the school year in 2010, we really thought that we would focus all of our energies on TVET, which is Technical and Vocational Education and Training, initiatives like the Child-Friendly School Program, the teacher appraisal, so that we would ensure that we are improving upon the delivery of education at the level of the classroom, and looking at things such as the revision of the curriculum, focusing on science and maths and so forth. We had to spend significant amount of time dealing with those, yes, but also maintenance issues. So going forward, we believe that school maintenance has to be considered holistically as a part of the program going forward.
Minister of Education, Honorable Nigel Carty, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ian.
On Monday, June 3, Government House at Camp Springfield was the site of a brief yet significant ceremony. Franklin Anderson Brown of Nevis was invested as a member of the British Empire with the official pinning of the MBE insignia to the jacket by Governor-General His Excellency Sir Edmund Wickham Lawrence and the handing over of the official documentation from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Here's a bit of background about Mr. Brown as read from his profile during the investiture.
Mr. Franklin Anderson Brown is known to some as Teacher Frank and to others as Mr. Brown. Mr. Franklin Brown is a product of Eugenie Daniel of Fountain Village and Thomas Brown of Zion Village. He grew up as a boy in Fountain and attended the Combermere Primary School, where he excelled par excellence. His school days would have seen him participating in all spheres of school life, especially dramatic plays and songs. Mr. Brown's training began as a pupil teacher, and he was the first youngster to have passed through the pupil teacher system. He furthered his education at the Eardiston College and the Barbados Technical Institute. He also studied at the Cumberland Educational Facility with the Cumberland Education Committee in England, and subsequently became a lecturer for the University of the West Indies, teacher of teachers courses, and taught the induction classes on Nevis for many, many years. Back in those days, management of all-age schools were extremely challenging. However, Mr. Brown was never daunted by this and was renowned for his strong and effective disciplinary measures that he instituted within the schools. His powerful voice commanded an ear of silence when he spoke, and he paraded the school daily to ensure that no one was idling or hiding on the school premises. He is best remembered for this verse that teaches punctuality. Students, whenever they found themselves late, recited this verse before the administration of the punishment. And it reads, "Never be late at a day school class. Come with your bright, sunny faces, cheering your teachers and praising your God. Always be found in your places. Never be late, never be late. Children, remember the warning. Try to be there, always be there, punctual at 9 in the morning." Over time, he gained the strong support which was needed to effectively manage the school. Mr. Brown was instrumental in introducing the College of Preceptors exam at New River that soon spread throughout the entire island. He was the first to introduce sports day in athletics and organized cricket matches among all the schools on Friday afternoons. He also introduced technical drawing to his students and was very proficient at it. Mr. Brown often boasts of his students in high positions in the private and public sectors. In his own words, he said, "I have produced doctors, lawyers, teachers, masons, carpenters, and some of the finest they were." In 2005, he received the Medal of Honor for St. Kitts and Nevis, one of the highest national awards for his sterling contribution to education. This feat was realized through the instrumentality of former students from New River School. He was honored by these same students on his 80th birthday in 2008. Mr. Brown also engaged in community service by supporting the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, of which he is still a member. He has been a member of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society from the early 60s. He recalls being invited to membership by Mr. Spencer Byron, former warden of Nevis. During the early years of the society, he attended meetings regularly and even acted as secretary at some point. He had an extended relationship with the Robinsons, Joan, and David when they were curators of the Hamilton Museum, proudly run by the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society. In addition, he's also a member of the Nevis Cricket Association and recalls his days of playing cricket in the first and second division in Nevis. Mr. Brown is also adept at history and takes pride in recalling events all over the globe. If you wish to know the intricacies of any event in his lifetime, tap him now. Mr. Brown remains humble but boastful. Mr. Franklin Anderson Brown, MBE, member of the British Empire.
Our congratulations to Mr. Brown on this remarkable achievement. That's it for today's program. If you would like to hear this edition again or listen to past programs, be sure to visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the SKNIS, and that's one word. We're also on Facebook. Just run a quick search for SKNIS. I'm Ian Richards.
We're pleased that you joined us for this edition of SKNIS Perspectives. Join us every week at this same time on this radio station.
This program is produced by the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.